Hi, I'm Britt Hedlund, and this is Module 1 of EDL 854. I am the coordinator for the Harper County Transition to Career program, and I live in Anthony, Kansas. I'll tell you more about my program in just a second. But first, the best thing about me is my kids. I have Faith, who's a freshman at K-State, and she's on the rowing team. I have Eli, who's about to be a senior at Chaparral High School and plays football and wrestles. And then I have Ethan, who is a freshman at Chaparral, and he is my cowboy. I am a mom, an educator, and a learner. I graduated from Northwestern Oklahoma State University a really long time ago and decided to go back to school in December and pursue this degree. So what I do is my program is a joint effort between Attica schools and Chaparral schools in Harper County. And Attica is a 1A school, Chaparral is a 3A school, and my job is really just to help expose students to careers, and I do that by helping them find college classes that relate to the careers that they foresee themselves doing, bringing in speakers, arranging job shadows, internships, and just several other events throughout the year that help students take ownership of their learning, work within their IPS, and just really learn essential work skills and make good decisions about their education. So when we talk about school level governance, I feel like principals know their schools the best, so it just makes sense for budgeting and planning to begin with them. A decentralized budgeting empowers principals and other department leaders to make decisions about how to best allocate resources and to meet school needs and district goals. This type of budgeting allows schools to put money where it's needed and influence student success. School level governance brings transparency and equity to learning. Money can be allotted or allocated to areas that are high need, like ESL programs or special ed, or like my program, for instance, but instead of just like a blanket approach. This helps encourage leaders to be accountable and responsive to student strengths and needs, and research shows that achievement and funding are linked and reports a 20% increase in spending per student resulted in 25% higher earnings after high school. Student and adult success and well-being. This is stronger when budgeting is done at the building level rather than the central office. When resources are allocated on the basis of need, everyone wins. Student achievement, school culture, teacher satisfaction all improve. And I kind of feel like low-income students have a lot, maybe the most to gain, with only a 21.7% increase in spending per student from low-income families can eliminate the gap between low-income and middle-class students. School-based budgeting allows students to implement high-quality teaching and learning initiatives and develop school improvement plans that can exponentially improve student achievement. Principals and teachers who are empowered to take on this leadership feel more pride and ownership in their roles. And in addition to staff involvement, principals who engage all stakeholders in planning see higher involvement, better school improvement, and a transparency that leads to a positive attitude toward our schools. Data. School districts have historically been in charge of school boards and have been in charge of budgeting decisions, which has had some benefits like cost control or efficiency, maybe overall operations, but a shift to a more decentralized budget has the research to reflect good outcomes. Research has seen a direct correlation between funding and student achievement. Currently, high needs schools receive less funding than affluent schools, but research has shown to improve the learning gap between the two types of schools by increasing the money per student, like we talked about earlier. Student-based budgeting has proven to be effective in many large urban schools like Nashville and Denver. This has increased student achievement, promotes vision, transparency, and equity. And smaller schools can use this research, implement change based on data that is effective, will save time, and increase student success. Equitable resources. Students have different needs, and funding should allow principals to distribute money within the budget based on that need. Curriculum, software, support staff, all those things are or should be based on need and not just a one-size-fits-all approach. One of the biggest reasons schools should allow principals to allocate funds for the budget is the equity that it brings to education. Strategic school funding is one program that has a goal to develop and implement more equitable and transparent strategies for allocating resources to schools within districts and to link those strategies to systems that encourage innovation and efficiency and strengthen accountability for student outcomes. Districts who look to this model see more equity and transparency along with improved student outcomes. Laws, policies, regulations, yuck. But school funding comes from multiple resources. 48% from state, 44% from local, property taxes, and then 8% from federal. And while school boards set the budget and control the funds, they are highly accountable to state and federal guidelines for regulations and spending. Every Student Succeeds Act requires local school boards to have financial transparency, which puts more demands on them. States are responsible for ensuring quality education, but they haven't done a good job of preparing school boards, district leaders, and principals for financial leadership. Of the $694 billion spent in public education, principals really have little control. Legislators, not educators, determine how funds are spent in the classroom, and that just doesn't make sense. Legislators need to rethink how funds are budgeted. And I was thinking Kansas has worked really hard to put redesign of our schools in the hands of individual districts, and it just makes sense for budgeting to follow that same trend. Budgeting should be the same, and principals with autonomy have better school outcomes. And I also kind of think that if you look at businesses who are successful, they're profitable and they grow, and education should be no different. Every learning institution, like any other organization, must ensure that business has constant and adequate money for smooth running of its operations and sustain it carefully in order to achieve its goals. And before this assignment, I'd really never thought about the amount of influence a principal should have over the school budget. I've never worked with our principal on the budget. I personally don't even have a budget. I have to raise all the money that I spend and write grants. So budgeting has never really been on my radar. But this assignment, I've learned how much value a principal can add to a budget and the education, and it makes it more equitable and transparent, and it just makes sense to me that the principal should have the most say in a school's budget since he or she knows the school and the student needs best. I hope that I'm a leader who is equipped to help with the budget, who's wise, who knows that the school needs well, and who spends the budget wisely. One concern I do have as a new leader is, will I know the needs well enough to set a good budget? So thank you for listening.